What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some updates for Greedfall 2, which just received its first major update after releasing into early access all the way back in September of last year. Now, if you've taken a look at Greedfall at all, you probably already know that early access launch was met with a not insignificant amount of problems. From people being dissuaded by the changes to combat from Greedfall 1, which was a more action-based system, to a more sort of indirect tactical system similar to something you might have seen in like Dragon Age Origins. And anytime you get a change like that, it's going to ruffle some feathers, of course. But perhaps unsurprisingly, another problem there was also the technical problems the game had, and while some of that's been fixed, it's still rough around the edges to be sure, as you may very well expect from an early access title. So, in response to that launch, Spiders, the developer, clearly had a lot of work to do, and it probably didn't help matters any that, from what I understand, there was some drama with the actual studio around that time, though I freely admit I don't have all the details on that particular point. But all of that said, what is this update actually about? Well, we get a new region, Olima, the City of Stars, a new companion via Safia, the game's hub system, or the equivalent of like a campfire where you'll be gathering your party, this time in the form of a ship that comes with its own crew and everything, and this is where a lot of your companion scenes will wind up playing out, such as the various romances you might get up to, which is probably as good a time as any to mention that they've also started introducing the companion storylines, and you can see the beginning of those quests in-game now. And then there's some significant improvements to the combat system, and while I still think they've got a ways to go on that front, it's already feeling a lot better than it did. Top all of that off with a few things like the disguise system being implemented, respecs being added, the UI being cleaned up, and some general bug fixing, and you've got a pretty significant patch that I think pushes Greedfall 2 in the right direction. Obviously, though, with this patch being just 0.2, there's still a long road ahead of us, and so unless you are just super invested in Greedfall 2 for some reason, I'd probably continue to hold off for now. Let's dig a little bit deeper there into some of those individual things. So, Olima, the City of Stars, seems to be a very large area divided up into several different districts, so it does actually kind of feel like you're moving around a proper city here, and as a result of that, in addition to the new environment and aesthetic and obviously the different culture that lives here, I believe Olima is the Bridge Alliance, so at any rate, it comes with a whole host of new content to explore if you are actually playing it for yourself already. Now, alongside that, some of that will include the new companion, Safia, a member of the Bridge Alliance herself. We meet her in the capital of the Nauts, the seafaring people. I believe it's called, like, Oxantis. It's very hard to pronounce for me. Safia is meant to be a renowned explorer, and considering most of your other party members seem to be much younger by comparison, I do think she offers, at the very least, a slightly more, let's say, well-traveled take in the sense that, she's a little more mature than the rest of them. But I think it provides an interesting bit of context to the world for our character, as well as one of our other companions, who are only just now seeing the world after being forcefully removed from their tribe. Now, all of those interactions and many more will be held among the Constanza, which is our new ship. Now, technically speaking, the ship belongs to Alvida, one of our other companions, who is herself a Naut, the seafaring people. But obviously, we'll be using that ship to sail around and do what we need to do for the main story. And this is simply going to act as a home base, and you can even access it from basically anywhere on the world map so long as you're not in a dungeon, which means you can fast travel here pretty much freeform, so you can gather your party, as it were. Now, if I was to guess, I would say by far the most interesting to people would be the changes to the combat system. Now, this is not really like a complete overhaul or anything like that. I don't want to give people that impression. Mostly it's just a pretty big improvement on what is already here. For starters, they've significantly improved how quickly stuff happens. They've chained together abilities, and the animations and transitions between those abilities all look a little smoother, and while it's far from perfect, it is, again, much better than what it was. And that also comes with the ability to do things like just simply target enemies much more easily because they've worked on the UI and interface as we've gone as well. Which means that just the visual feedback of what you're seeing on screen is a little easier to parse as a result. Even if the, UI itself sort of lacks a bit of polish in the sense that it's pretty much all function and no form at the moment. But in terms of a more actionable improvements. We've seen the addition of all sorts of abilities that will allow you to do things like instruct your entire party to, say, hold position, rally, attack your target, heal, revive, etc. You can all just kind of bind those to a button. So again, not a sweeping overhaul or anything, but some much needed improvements and hopefully a stepping stone on the way to making this combat system more interesting. Now, to be very blunt with you, I think with them following up Greedfall as a sequel, they might have just been better off staying with that more action-oriented combat from the previous game, but I guess we'll see how it pans out. This type of gameplay isn't really a problem for me personally. If anything, it's more like most of the games that I play. So there's that, I suppose. But there are still a whole host of smaller systems as well worth mentioning, such as disguises officially being in. So as we move about the game world, you're definitely going to run across restricted areas from time to time, and while you already have some options for dealing with this in terms of either talking your way in the door or simply sneaking in while trying to hopefully avoid a fight, you now have yet another option via disguises, which will let you just waltz in the door because everyone will think you belong there, though it does seem that your success with this is largely based on your character's stealth skill. So if that's the route you want to go, you're going to need to pump that up. But while you're engaging in all of those, or perhaps even just trying to use your stealth skill more effectively, you can now respec actually via a memory stone, I believe it's called. So you're not entirely locked in to any given play style if you want to mix things up, though they do seem to be relatively rare. And then to top it all off, just a whole host of various bug fixes, as you might imagine, a lot of which was centered around a sort of quest continuity, that is to say, depending on the certain order in which you did things, kind of avoiding the quest being broken as a result of some of the ways you could complete them, as an example, with the rest of it being more just technical stuff. And that is pretty much everything to know about Greedfall's first major update, and it's nice to see the game finally kind of heading in the right direction. I still think it's got a lot of road ahead of it, and thus, while it is very much so rough around the edges, but you can definitely kind of start to see some stuff taking shape here, and it feels already like it's in a much better place than it was previously, so hopefully they continue in that direction. But for now, I think that's pretty much going to do it for this particular video. So if you want to hear about games in general, or just to keep up with what Greedfall 2 will be doing across its early access period, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.